If you've seen Squid Game Season 3, you know the games of this season are absolutely crazy. But if you pay close attention, the games are even deeper than you think. We're about to break down all the games from Squid Game Season 3, so be sure to subscribe and let's get into it. Hide and Seek. The fourth game, a twisted version of Hide and Seek, begins not with a childish playground chant, but with the cold clatter of a gumball machine. Each player receives a ball, either red or blue, which dictates their role. Those with red balls become the Seekers, armed with knives and a dark mission. Those with blue balls are the Hiders, given keys and a brief head start to vanish into a sprawling, labyrinthine arena. Before the timer starts, a window for negotiation opens. Players can trade their roles, a moment that immediately exposes their fears and strategies. We see player 333, driven by a protective instinct for the pregnant player 222, offer to take on the role of a Seeker. His plan is to secure his own survival by getting a kill, thereby allowing him to shield her for the remainder of the game. Similarly, the young player 007, fearing his mother's inability to kill, convinces her to swap roles, taking the burden of becoming a hunter upon himself. Once the game begins, the Hiders are released into the arena, an unsettling maze designed to look like a gigantic children's playroom. The vibrant colors and playful aesthetics stand in disturbing contrast to the life-or-death struggle unfolding within its walls. They have just 2 minutes to hide before the Seekers are unleashed. Panic sets in as they scatter, fumbling with the keys around their necks to unlock new passageways and put distance between themselves and their pursuers. The rules for the Hiders are deceptively complex. While their keys can open doors, they cannot lock them, leaving a trail for anyone following. It soon becomes clear that the locks are not universal. They come in 3 distinct shapes: circles, squares, and triangles. This twist forces a difficult choice upon the Hiders. They must either find other players with the corresponding keys to form alliances, or resort to theft and violence to acquire the full set needed to reach one of the designated exits and ensure their survival. For the red-vested Seekers, the task is far more straightforward, but no less sinister. They have 30 minutes to find and eliminate one Hider. Failure to do so results in their own elimination. This brutal rule ensures a relentless and desperate hunt, turning every Seeker into a potential victim of the game's clock. Seeker-on-Seeker violence is forbidden, focusing all aggression squarely on the Hiders. This setup creates a landscape of shifting alliances and immediate betrayals. Player 120, being such a compassionate and capable woman, forms a small group to protect the pregnant player 222 and the elderly player 149. Their collective goal is pure survival, putting together their keys and knowledge of the maze. They carefully navigate the corridors, their progress dictated by the shapes of the locks on the doors they encounter. Meanwhile, a far more evil partnership forms between player 333 and the volatile Namgyu. Fueled by a shared ruthlessness, they become a highly effective killing duo, stalking the maze and cornering their prey with terrifying efficiency. Their collaboration highlights a key loophole, as they discover that by killing together, they can both fulfill the game's requirement and pass to the next round, doubling their lethality. The game also becomes a stage for deep personal drama. The once heroic Gi-hun, rendered silent and soulless by trauma, stalks the maze with a single-minded obsession. He isn't hunting just anyone, he is hunting Dae-ho, the man he blames for the failure of the rebellion and the death of his friend. His pursuit is silent and predatory, a chilling transformation from the man he once was, trying to save everybody in the games. Betrayal becomes a common occurrence. Player 100, consumed by fear, sacrifices his companion, player 232, to a Seeker, throwing him in her path to block a door and secure his own escape. He runs away, clutching his newfound freedom, a dark illustration of how quickly morality fades when survival is on the line. The game reaches a deadly climax in a series of deeply personal confrontations. Player 120, defending her small group, engages in a brutal knife fight with a Seeker and manages to win, only to be tragically stabbed in the back moments later by player 333, who mistakes her for a threat to his own group. Her death is a devastating blow, leaving the pregnant player 222 and player 149 vulnerable. In another corner of the maze, Gi-hun finally corners a terrified Dae-ho. After a brutal struggle filled with accusations and confessions, Gi-hun chokes the life out of him, finally passing the game, but losing another piece of his humanity in the process. His only words, "It's your fault," echo the immense weight of his guilt and rage. The most heart-wrenching moment comes in the final minutes. Player 007, who took on the Seeker role to protect his mother, finds himself facing player 222 and her newborn baby. Struggling with the moral weight of killing them, his own time is running out. His mother, player 149, makes the ultimate sacrifice. Understanding that her son will be eliminated if he fails, she tells him to kill her. When he pushes her aside to kill player 222, though, his mother takes matters into her own hands, stabbing her own son in the back with a hairpin so that he will not be able to kill 222 or her child. A desperate, tragic act of love that ends with 149 breaking down and begging the guards to spare her son, but they do not. Jump rope. The next game shifts from the claustrophobic tension of the maze to a spectacle of terrifying scale, taking place on a bridge structure in front of a prime viewing area for the VIPs. This challenge is far more physically direct, designed as a cruel combination of childhood games and manufactured horror. Players are confronted with a single, narrow beam that serves as a bridge, but with a significant gap in the middle they must leap across. Their goal is to traverse this entire path to a finish line on the other side. Simple, right? Well, nothing in the games are that easy. The main obstacle is a mechanical skipping rope held by the giant murder doll from the first season, as well as her boyfriend swinging in a relentless metallic rhythm. The massive size of the death trap is intimidating enough, its movements creating gusts of wind that threaten to unbalance even the most sure-footed contestants. To survive, players must perfectly time a series of jumps over the sweeping rope while maintaining their balance on the treacherous narrow path, all within a 20-minute time limit. There is absolutely no room for error in this challenge. A single misstep, a moment of hesitation, or a poor judgment of the rope's timing sends a player plummeting into the dark abyss below. The psychological pressure is immense, as the raw fear of heights combines with the rhythmic threat of the rope and the echoing screams of those who fall. The game is a pure test of nerve, agility, and the ability to maintain focus under the most extreme duress, something that causes many to freeze in place, too afraid to even start. The seemingly straightforward task is complicated by the human element, which the VIPs watch with great amusement. With contestants attempting to cross the same narrow beam, a bottleneck quickly forms, and the limited space becomes a battleground. More aggressive and hostile players see an opportunity, realizing they can secure their own safety by turning on others. One player begins pushing fellow contestants from the platform after they've already made it, creating a deadly blockade and ensuring that fewer people pass. A cruel strategy soon emerges from the chaos. Players realize they can disrupt the rhythm of others by intentionally creating a chain reaction of panic and missteps. A slight push at the right moment can cause a domino effect, sending a whole line of unsuspecting players to their doom. Alliances are meaningless here. It's purely an individual struggle against the mechanics of the game and the desperation of the other contestants. The game also cruelly declares that everyone is a player, including the newborn baby, forcing Gi-hun to carry the infant across the perilous bridge himself. The rope itself is not a static threat. As the game progresses, its pattern seems to shift, forcing players to constantly adapt their timing. This variability prevents anyone from simply memorizing a pattern, ensuring that every second on the beam is fraught with tension. The game results in a huge wave of eliminations born from panic and betrayal, followed by the heart-wrenching sacrifice of player 222, who, unable to cross with her injured ankle, jumps to her death to ensure Gi-hun does not risk his own life coming back for her. Squid Game. The final game takes the name of the competition's signature challenge, but is a version twisted into a new form of psychological torture. Instead of a squid-shaped outline drawn on the ground, the remaining players find themselves ascending to a series of massive, high-story pillars shaped like the iconic circle, triangle, and square. These platforms are suspended at a dizzying height within a giant cave, a constant and terrifying reminder of the fatal consequences of a single bad step. The rules of the Squid Game move away from physical ability and focus almost entirely on negotiation, manipulation, and betrayal in a deadly pushing game. The game is structured in 3 stages, one for each platform, starting with the square, then the triangle, and finally the circle. On each stage, the group must collectively decide to eliminate at least one player from their ranks by pushing them off the edge. If one or more players are eliminated within the time limit, the survivors can proceed to the next tower. This structure presents a diabolical and sinister drama, broadcast for the entertainment of the rich VIPs watching in luxury from safety above. The setting and atmosphere of this final game shines a major light on humans being treated like animals of entertainment, turning on one another like crazed animals in nature. Theoretically, it would be possible for a large number of players to survive if they could agree to sacrifice only the minimum required at each stage. Several could reach the end and split the enormous jackpot. It is the ultimate test of their ability to cooperate when the ultimate prize is so very close. However, the frontman and the game's architects rely on a fundamental aspect of human nature: greed. As the group stands on the first platform, the possibility of a larger individual share of the prize money begins to poison their thoughts. Why split the money with 8 others when it could be split with 7 or 6, or even just keep it all to myself, not a friend? The platforms become arenas for intense debate and ruthless social manipulation, with the contestants immediately targeting Gi-hun and the baby as the weakest links. Factions form and shatter in a matter of moments. Players make passionate arguments for their own survival, while pointing out the supposed weaknesses or potential threats posed by others, such as Player 125's severe drug addiction. Old rivalries flare up, and new ones are born out of suspicion and pure paranoia fueled by the very nature of the game. The decision of who to eliminate is a brutal process of social culling, forcing them to choose a pusher and even devise contraptions from their clothing to ensure the pusher's safety. The game is a masterclass in psychological manipulation, forcing the contestants to become judge, jury, and executioner. Alliances shift violently, with player 33 revealing the baby is his and teaming up with Gi-hun to turn against the other players who had been plotting against them. The game descends into a bloody brawl, leaving only Gi-hun, player 333, and the baby for the final stage on the red circle pillar, setting up one last tragic confrontation between the two men for the ultimate prize. In a wild twist, Gi-hun ends up surviving but has to self-eliminate anyway to ensure the survival of baby 222, fulfilling his vow to keep Junhee's child safe. And that concludes the final game in Season 3. Which one do you think was the cruelest? Do you have a favorite? Let us know in the comments if you agree with our pick. And if you want to see more Squid Game content and theories, click the video on screen now.